omulimu ogwetaagisa kino ekiggwa. Abantu abo bonna nga bwe mubogeddeko bwana Hafidhu ne Mugi Martin gw'omanyi yenna ekifaananyi kijjeeyo. Nze mbadde manyiiko omu Yunusu kubanga Yunusu nkuze mulaba mumanyi bulungi nnyo Kawempe Kataka. Owulidde? Kale kati abantu beetaaga kubakolako butereevu, sigamba nno tubogereko bwogezi abo bonna nga badde mu saga ey'okukuba rope ne SG waffe beetaaga kuba profilinga ne mubulira n'abantu ekyokukola. Abali ku kyalo ono waava mutandikire awo, abali ku kyalo maama we gyali oba tata we gyali musobola okugenda Kayumba ne mukakumako omudde amanyi nno tali safe. Naffe batusuza bubi, batta abantu baffe. Lwaki ffe tubeera nga tubatunuulira nga tubakwata mpola, tubayita n'ebintu ebirungi mbu RDC kika kyo akolera Museveni yekka.
Bamiseguya mu kumanya mu byonna ng'oyogera ebyo byonna nzikiriza era mpiseewo kano. Omu ku bakwatiddwa ebifaananyi Deputy RDC wa Masaka ng'ono yali PA wa Mwami Mathias Mpuuga nga ye yatuloopa n'omusango gukyali mu kkooti. Y'omu era ku babaddeyo munda ebifaananyi bwe bikutte. Genda mu maaso ssebo.
Teriyo mazima ge tusuubira mu kalulu go tegagenda kubaayo. Kubanga omukyalo oli gundi Prime Minister ye kabaka okulira okubba obululu. Ye yali akulira ba RDC abo bonna era yabatendeka ebyo ebyokubba obululu. Kati tolowooza mbu ogenda bufuna mu ngeri eri ye tabangako w'amazima. Ebintu ebyo byonna byakupanga bupanza pushinga bipushinga. Owulidde? Kati Uganda webanga bweti bwefaanana twetaaga kumanya ki kye tulwana nakyo tuveemu ebyokulowooza mbu tuli mu bintu ebiri nomo. Tugenda wali tukuba akalulu bajja katuwa, tebasobola katuwa. Bakolera wamu poliisi ne Electoral Commission ne Museveni ne NRM ne ba RDC bonna. Ffe tuli against the state ne mashini zaayo zonna nga ne poliisi n'amagye bigasseeko. Olebe mbabadde batiikinga obululu n'abajjako ennamba mu mmotoka b'amagye balina n'emmundu balina emmundu bali eri mu gundi beekwese mu nnyumba. Kati nga mufulumanga enju era temugikumako omuliro mubeera mugyagazaanye. Be tulabidde ddala ng'ennamba baziggyako ku mmotoka bagende batukoleko obulabe. Ku mmotoka etaliiko nnamba yeekuba abantu yebawamba yebakolako obulabe. Simanyi ki kye tuba tulinda. Nze mutuufu kiseera era ne SG mugambye bw'ataddeyo gundi ng'agaba omusajja amukubye ebbatu ne mugamba nti munnange olabye naye lwaki temutukkiriza naffe ne tubakolako obulabe nga bwe babakolako. Kwa bwe balina otukkiriza ffe tusobola nze bwe nakyekolera nze nzekka teri agenda kungoberera. Kitegeeza nti abazira bagenda kuba baggwawo mpola. Naye bw'otukkiriza ne tulumba omulundi gumu abazira te badumira bali abalala abatali bazira. Namugaa gweyita wano gweyita wali tugende. Naye simanyi oba tulagawa ye bigenda mu maaso si birungi. Okusookera ddala mu lutalo luno tweyawuddwako abantu abava ba MP aba opposition bonna abava mu North batweyawuddeko ne bagamba bagenda kusaba Museveni abawe ebintu byabwe, waliwo ebintu bye baagala abawe, bagenda kuteesa naye. Kitegeeza nti badifectinze era kyova olaba nti waliwo gundi waliwo priest ow'omu North yayogedde ebigambo bingi nnyo ebirungi ennyo kale ku sayidi eno ey'omuntu anyigirizibwa. Naye era yabyogeredde mu ngeri yakuba nenyanga agantya muyinza mutya okugenda mutesa na Museveni ku neeyisaayi n'ebintu ebiringa ebyo. N'olaba bano ba Amuriat Aboy nabo bagenze ewaabwe mu Teso nabo ne beekalakaasa ne bagamba affe kakati twagala Museveni atuwe ente zaffe ze baalya then asobole okufuna akalulu. Ekitegeeza nti bo bamaze okusalawo ki kye bagenda okukola. Teriyo byakugamba nti balwanyisa Museveni naffe bo baagala kuteesa naye abawe kyabawa baveemu bamuleke agende mu maaso. Kitegeeza nti North ne Teso tebali naffe. Tusigazza Busoga, tusigazza Buganda, tusigazza Bunyolo, tusigazza at least oba ne Western Uganda. Naye kiba kitukola bubi. bannaffe abali wano nga muva mu north abantu amanyi Oluganda muluwuli mutuliddemu olukwe bwe muba nga we muli era mugambe ku bannaffe abo nti batuliddemu olukwe ebyo byonna bye bakola byakwegira.
Nsegya oyogedde ku kya north. Let me talk something small about the north. I don't think the whole of north etuliddemu olukwe ba leaders baabwe be batuliddemu olukwe because trust me, the people in north, majority of them don't align themselves with the dictator. It is their leaders that align themselves. It's the reason why oyo priest oyo yavuddeyo n'ayogera byayogera. I've been to Lira and I've been to a place called David Oite Ojok Lane. For those people who have been to Lira, there's a place called Good News there. Most of those people do not align themselves with the current system. Okay? Naye ba leaders bawe, and this is the problem that that priest raised, that they focus about positions and kitu kidogo, as long as they have what someone has gotten a 500 million, 300 million, that's it. And at the end of the day, there are people realizing that, you know what, these leaders are not even helping. For those of you who have been following this former MP, trying to forget his name, Odongo Oto. Yes, he has been talking. He's talking about the land grabbing. You know, these are the issues that are pertinent in the north, but because their leaders have been bought off, ekitegeeza nti n'oboguze ba leaders, as long as the masses are still grieved.
Odongo Oto gwe basooka okugula Museveni gwe
baamugula, naye kati Odongo Oto yesanze in a scenario that, you know, omanyi bayinza okugula, but then you find yourself in a scenario like you're in Kyagulanyi kyayogerako nti tusobola kubeera mugagga nga oli mubaavu enkumi n'enkumi n'olowooza nti gwe oli mugagga naawe oli mwavu.
Mukimanyi nti tewategedde Kakodyo mwe yajjidde ayagala kukomawo mu kibalo naye bamuteekemu abo abagenda okuteesa ne Museveni bamuwe ssente kubeera ne luli ebyo yali ayogera nga bw'olaba abyogera bwe yali abyogera ng'agamba abalaalo biki ayogera ebintu bingi nnyo ne bamuwa ssente n'asirika bwe kye n'addeko ebbali n'asirikira ddala.
Ffe tetugenda kubagulumiza. Whoever is with the revolution
team Museveni must go. Era nze buli wenkomawo, when I come back, I'm going to be hosting spaces. Maybe right now I might consider that idea of saying, okay, we need to amplify more in our different regions. However, me, I was coming back with an idea of Museveni must go. My spaces would just be Museveni must go, Museveni must go, Museveni must go. Twino chimba nefuuka nga Amina, netujiga nga Amina. Kubanga buli kimu tuyinza okyogera naye Museveni must fucking go. Kati ekyo nga kivuddeko ekyokubiri, baganda baffe bano ba Machete, nze I cannot stand it personally to see what is happening to Machete. Just because we have just lost Segirinya, we have Shamim Malende, Kundiri, anytime naye bayinza otugamba ebintu bitabuse. We have people like Anthony Wameli. To some of you Ugandans, you might think these are just Ugandans. To me, these are really very, very, very serious, important people that still hurt me up to today. People like Anthony Wameli, Bachan Numa, up to today. I think we would have benefited more as a country if we have those people around us. So, to see a young Machete in prison, nze nga nze, kiringa okulaba omwana wa Segirinya ne Nabbanja. That's how I can compare it to you. After killing Segirinya, and then you pretend you can take care of Segirinya's kids. After killing Segirinya in a very, very slow manner, kubanga if they had just shot Segirinya, it would have been better. But making the guy die slow, it is the same thing they are doing to Machete. So I'm not going to do any other thing. Fuck all regions that need me to participate in their language exhibitions, kind of nonsense. I have reached a point like I don't want to show Ugandans like you need to do this or you need to do that. If you're not oppressed, fine, good for you. Nze ndi oppressed byange bulala. So I don't want to give someone things to do that I cannot do. I want to tell someone to do things that I can do personally. This is why I want to fight for Machete's release as soon as possible. I feel me telling people in Western Uganda it's important to vote and protect your vote in the languages they understand is not as urgent as Machete's freedom. So this is why I'm not saying I'm not going to do it. I'm going to resume hosting spaces, but I think I'm coming back because of Machete's issue, Kalanzi's issue, our brothers Bobby Young, and the list has kept on growing recently. Kyekinkomyawo ekyo. I think for other things nze nkyusizaamu enkola y'emirimu. I'm not going to say that I'm going to do everything, like I'm going to fight for political prisoners, then I'm going to fight for my oppression, then I'm going to fight for other regions to speak in their languages. But what I've done is I have been able to talk to other people that I see potential in my region. First, to speak. Second, to host spaces. I'm yet to convince them to start hosting spaces on X, I think. But I have managed to do that. I encourage you guys in your areas, Mbali, make people like LM Dada, get 2 LM Dadas, make 2 Muj Martins, make 3 Christos. Go in other regions like Kapchorwa where, make more comrades that can speak out. Go to Busia, make more gems. This will help to decentralize the work and also reduce the responsibility, because it is heavy when we lift sometimes these responsibilities of I will be hosting the spaces regardless of what come may. Sometimes it's heavy, especially for those of us that have now decided to go to other platforms, not just X. Nze mbeera wano naye nsiiba ku TikTok kubanga nategeera bannayuganda abali ku ground bali ku TikTok. Ekyokubiri, bannayuganda abali ku TikTok essaawa zino aboogera ku nsonga za Uganda bangi okusinga abali ku X1 essaawa zino nga bataddeko zi live. Ekyo nkibagamba, so this is why I get involved there, because I realized here we just speak, most of us, might be on ground, but when we have more people who understand, hey, we are marching to parliament, nga naye bakitegedde ku TikTok, kigattako, kiyambako our forces that we have here. But I respect and salute comrades here, because for me, I think these are the think tank platform. You know, we come and think, then we take this information on X, break it into smaller digestible pieces. Mwebale nnyo baganda bange, saagala okulandaga nnyo. I don't want to bore people, but much as we are fighting, we need to understand that whatever we are saying here, whatever we are suggesting, it is not bad. It is not a weak strategy. Nothing is weak in this struggle anymore. Nothing. Even commenting, even listening, you know, it is a lot. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Comrade Wounded Ugandan, for that. And thank you for the efforts you're doing with the comrades on TikTok. Personally, I'm not so much engaged on TikTok. Actually, me, I'm basically on X and Facebook a bit. It's just that my Facebook account, I can no longer accept more friend requests because I have the limit. I'm in about like 7,000 I can't accept, and because of the limitation with Facebook, you have to use VPN. So I rarely engage on Facebook. I'm basically on X, and so this is it, guys. Let's all do whatever we can in our capacities. Me, I'm always congratulating comrades on various platforms, whatever they are doing. This is the Ubuntu we want. Buli omu gy'oli yenna kwasa ky'okwasa, tambuza, let's push forward. You know, at the end of the day, yes, like Wounded Uganda say, this X is like the think tank, you know. You might make your suggestion here and you think probably it has stopped here, but it's going to be, you're going to be surprised when someone out there is using it, and some comrades on other platforms are debating about it. So do not be afraid. Let's use whatever we can in our capacity.
Mukisha walikuwa chemtende mu comment Martin.
Yes, okay. And then the other thing is, do not relent, guys. Do not relent. Do not relent. Let's do whatever we can in all our capacities. Let's push, guys. If you have no reason to join this cause, think about your family. Think about where you come from. Think about the life you have right now. Maybe some people have a good life and they don't have much to think about, but think about today. Think about and say, am I in a better situation in this country, in this Uganda, in this Kampala, in this Wakiso, in this Gulu, in this wherever you are? And ask yourself, is this the situation I would want for my children? If you know it's not, please speak up. And on top of that, continue advocating. When the time comes for you to hit the road, when the time comes for you to say, Kale, biganje, Kale, neba batinatubya akalulu nga tugamba Kale, kyetaagisa genda paka mu State House Entebbe, owandika buwandiisi wiru n'ogamba nze banziika wano, njolekedde Entebbe mu ntebe, ebyange bye bino. I mean, that's it. Right now we have to adapt to a situation where we say, anytime you're going, if it's for the country, don't be comfortable and say, okay, no. Adapt this thing for those of you back at home. Sawa yo naba ngenda. Na ye, I'm going for the right cause. I'm pushing harder for the right cause. There is no way I'm going to allow Museveni, an 80-year man who's going to 90s, and Sikize Mutabaniwe, who is 50 years. Nigga, I'm not going to allow that. I'm not going to allow culticism and family rule here in Uganda. This is not North Korea. I mean, what the fuck? What are you tolerating even? What are we even tolerating? You know? I mean, that is too much kamanyiro, too much manios, you know? In that, jaja atufuge, ni mutabani wa atufuge. Ate mutabani we na atuletere mutabani we. I mean, Ugandans, we have to adapt that. This is why I'm saying, guys, has been in jail for close to 5 years. We have people who have disappeared. Tetumanyi gye bali. Bakibalama tetumanyi gye bali. Twogera wano naye bagenda tetumanyi oba bamukasuka mu ggoonya oba bamuka. Nobody knows. I mean, this should tell you that, man, imagine that happened to your relative. Imagine that happened to your friend. Imagine that happened to your brother and sister. You know? I mean, are we going to tolerate that? These guys are inhuman, man. They do inhuman acts on our people. If we let this thing continue, we are the ones going to pay the consequences. Because it's going to be like there's nothing we can do about it. But if we choose to fight and stand firm and say, Kale, ekimala kimala, don't say banange nze ndi eri sina kye nsobola kukola n'oba oli Bulaaya olina ky'osobola okukola. Guys, we need everybody on board. Even when you see Muj Martin is losing hope, please motivate me not to lose hope. Even when you see Wounded Ugandan is losing hope, motivate him not to lose hope. This is what we should do. Do not relent. Kawempa has taught us nti bw'omulemerako tufunamu ate tusoofuna ekinene. Kwaba abaana abali mu kkomera Machete yandibadde teyeekalakaasa bw'atyo. Even if yes, he backed out on his protest of the hunger strike. Now yes, still we need to fight for their freedom. They are there not because they are looking for any political seat. They were not looking for any political seat. They just wanted their country to be better. And for me, sorry to say this, that's why the other day in Zenalingamba Bantu, don't tell me about people, Smanyanga heroes or what. Smanyanga, I was telling people, man, the same way we advocated for KB, it's the same way we should advocate for these political prisoners. For me, these are my heroes. They have been in jail for close to 5 years. They have tolerated that pain, which I cannot probably tolerate. Omwana okutuuka okugamba nti omanyi sigenda kulya mmere amidst the more 4 years they have been in jail. That is, to me, is beyond. For me, he's a hero. For me, he's even bigger than Besigye. To me, Muj Martin, don't come here to say Ate Muj Martin is attacking. No, I'm speaking on myself. For me, the Machetes and the rest of the colleagues are bigger than that because they have paid the ultimate price that I feel like, man, I need to wake up. You know, maybe I could but that spirit, because in life, Bulyomi, you have to learn to appreciate what you have to They have stayed true to the cause. They have been told to accept charges. They refused. They have been done whatever sorts of manner. They have refused. How do you then despise those people and say, you know, you cannot compare them to the... No. These guys, this is why we say Museveni must go. Because the country we want, it needs to be a country where we know we can all enjoy. Today it's Machete, tomorrow it's going to be me, it's going to be anyone else, it will be anybody. You know? How are we going to lay back our hands and fold our hands and say, okay, you know what? Nedda, byaba luzungu. You know? No. Guys, we have to find reason to fight. We have to find reason to carry on the cause. Like it or not, okay? Because we have people who need our support. They need Machete. I know kubeera mukomera ne bannenga bawulira nti ewabweru kitokota. That is what will keep them going. That is what will keep them going. Aja kumanya nti I'm here naye bannange balina kye bakola eri. But every time we relent, and this is why I kindly asked them, like, guys, let spaces be running. Nga abana bagezezako running a TikTok on YouTube, TikTok, and then also on YouTube, the bloggers and all that. Let's also do the same. Let's have these spaces running. Not because you're the best speaker or anything, but no, for the cause to keep going. Oyo mwana buli lwabeeri n'awulira nti bakyali ku mulamwa bakyadduse ensonga. They stay motivated. Mandela spent 27 years in jail, and what kept him strong and resilient in jail is because when he was arrested, the struggle did not stop. The wife took the mantle, the comrades took the mantle, and they pushed harder and harder until South Africa was liberated. So it's the same thing. We have to keep doing that. Yes, until let's keep doing that, because we have people who, look at how Nabanja played with Chibalama's thing. Hey, twamukwata atulumala bakibuuza abizanyira mu diikula. I mean, these are people who have lost remorse. Government ya Museveni have realized it's a culticism government. It is a government that will get people who are religious. Nabanja, one thing I knew about her, she was a strong Catholic. Same thing with Anita Amon. There is a way when Museveni takes people lose their sense of reason. But ankokogero ludicha, bogero olulimi terutegeekera, oba lwa sitaani, oba lwaki, you can oba lwa basamize, they do, like lies become the topics of the day. Olina Jalwatu n'alimba. You were seeing how she was lying in the Kawempe by-election. Neyekaza, nayimirira kuli. And then you're like, wow, what happened to humanity? So if we need to liberate our country, we need to look at all these things and say, no, you know what? Whatever you can do, Crystal, in your capacity, do it. Dr. James, whatever you can do. If you can push those letters, if you can push the voices to the Congress, to the senators, to whatever those you can do in the US, do it. Same with you, Clinton. Same with you, Wounded Uganda. Same with you, Martha. Same with you, Ellen Prezo. Bino ebyokubeera ne tubeera mundu ate this is not my class, this is not my category. No, Uganda has to come first. This is liberation. If we need to be in a country where we know we can enjoy, even if not everyone is going to be rich, but a country where there are minimum set of standards that everybody will be like, yeah, there are good roads, there's this, there's enough drugs in the hospitals, the healthcare facility. I mean, that is the Uganda we should jubilate into omuntu asobola okuva ewe ng'amanyi nti ngenda agenda muka healthcare center kange akewaffe naye ng'ate nja ssangamu what I need. Now, if we in this 21st century, while the whites are busy thinking about dominating the space, ffe tukyalwanira kufuna good roads. I mean, kitegeeza tukyali mabega nnyo. Tukyalwanira ebintu bali bye basukkako. N'olwekyo, if that is the case, we should even fight harder. We should even amplify the voices harder and liberate this country. And we are dealing with a dictator who is a chauvinist. He's a Machiavellist. This is a guy he's the most tribalistic leader Uganda has ever had. Not even Amin had that. Not even Obote had that. Nayona atulaze nti musajja muzimu nnyo yeetunuulira nga ye. Look at all the government bodies. Look at all the heads. Go to Busia Malaba. Look at the people who are operating there. Oyinza ogamba bannange bano bayola plani y'emu ku kyalo Abannayuganda bate basoma. And someone will say, why are you bringing this up? But these are the facts. Kati, you as you, are you going to let that be the same, or you're going to do something to change that status quo? This is a country where at least it should be about competence. Naye omuntu n'ogenda n'otekayo effort zo, abaana bagenze mu interviews, bakoze biki, naye interview omwana n'avaayo ne bakulaga nti ate eyayiseemu teyakola na interview, wabula baamugya eri ku kyalo, baakuba bukubi kasimu. Iwe, Izakun, we heard this. It's the same thing happening in the UPDF. Yesterday, it was a debate in Parliament. Out of the 37 recruitment promotions that were done, almost 32 in the UPDF were coming from the same area, same region. MPs were raising this issue. But we are in a bad situation whereby this guy he's a chauvinist. Muntu yeroza ko nga ye ne family ye n'ab'okukyalo be. So if we do not fight hard to remove this stupid madness in our country, we are doomed. We are going to become a laughing stock. How shall we, how shall we live in this society we are in? Ne Tanzania, what the Tanzania is a one-party rule, but Tanzania sees different presidents. There has never been it. Magufuli we yafa, kakati tuina mtawani we yagira. Nobody, I'm sure even none of you knows even Magufuli's family. Wounded Ugandan, or mana Magufuli gomanyi oba muwala we gomanyi ali mu government ye Tanzania. Do you have any daughter of anyone of Nyerere that you know? Oba Jakaya Kikwete?
Sina gwemanyi.
Why? Why is Tanzania seeing anti Bobali Bahagamba? Yes, we are going to have one single party rule. Now here they made sure that no, this is not family issue. Omala okufuga ekicho genda tolooza akona byakusikiza mutabani wo. But here we are, the guy is actually, the son talks like in a nyumba ya kitange. He even talks like daddy this, daddy that, daddy this, daddy that. Anybody who is not a mzee, anybody like no labira da omwana ali kuchupa yamata bwe bawa buli kaseera buli kimu daddy. I mean, is this the country we are really going to tolerate, guys?
Muji.
With that, I beg meet and Bob Liam, you can. Crystal, are you there?
Muji, I wanted to give you a point of information before I start to submit. Did you know that Museveni has got a child, his own child, in CCM Tanzania? But guess what? The people of Tanzania know exactly who the guy is. You understand? So Museveni had a mission to overtake all political institutions in the East African region. My brothers and sisters, fellow Ugandans, it is us to do the most filthy and dirtiest work, because all the proliferation of vices comes from Uganda. That is Mr. Museveni's. Now that I've got a right opportunity, brothers and sisters, I greet you once again and I convey my appreciations, heartfelt one, for your indulgence, tireless efforts in our continued effort to free ourselves, from the bondage of dictator Museveni. Brothers and sisters, Moji Martin, most especially, who spearheads in hosting night shifts. Brothers and sisters, I'm in full support of this localization of our campaign. You understand? In his effort, His Excellency Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu reminded us a philosophical saying, who said it, I don't remember the name, but he said that if you want people to listen to you, speak the language they can hear, right? And he further said that if you want them to understand you, speak the language they know. You understand? So meaning that if we push down our campaign into our local languages, hosting them in regional settings, west, east, north, south, central, me myself, I'm willing to step forward and start organizing the Buganda space, and looking forward to coordinate it. Nkobazambogo Digital Warriors. Our mission, it is to demystify Museveni's misrule. Brothers and sisters, the win in Kawempe North translates into two things. That Museveni, he has been weakened in a game he thought he knows the most, that is violence. People have showed you, Mr. Museveni, that you can bring all your armories, and they will look in the face of it and they say, no, this is our taxpayers' money, and the people who are operating them, they are our subjects. Thus, we are not freeing the road, or you can run over us.
You understand? Of which they will not do. So fellow Ugandans, this is a stepping stone showing you that we have to resist Museveni's intimidation, and we have to conceive a notion that Mr. Museveni has no capacity to make us believe that elections does not usher in leadership. Oh yes, it does. It does. It was not in Museveni's will to announce or declare Luyimbazi as the winning candidate. No, it was the resistance exhibited by the people of Uganda as a result of sensitization of this nature. Night Shift, Brother Muji Martin, Dr. James, LM Prezo, LM Dada, and everybody. All of you combatants, your efforts are not in vain, brothers and sisters. They may appear to be sluggish in motion, but we are not on standstill. Every step we take weakens Museveni's existentiality. So, brothers and sisters, let us keep reinvigorating our minds. Let us not recognize intimidation. Let us not recognize any pessimism in our mind. Let us continue pushing the fight. Muji Martin, you proposed that you spoke to the leader of Uganda's institution, that is Honorable Musili David, that they should, be more regular into these spaces. You understand? One may wonder how comes that, these intellectual young men are not encouraging, their voices are not well heard, well organized. You understand? So Wounded Ugandan is justifying that TikTok is more audible than Space, because Space is considered to be a platform of intellectuality. So where are these people? Where are they? So we need to press leadership Musiri to bring these people on board, to bring them on board. Let us demand their presence. Let us put them on the hot seat. We demand their presence because Mr. Museveni still have legitimacy on an intellectual basis. You understand? That is where Museveni still have legitimacy. Museveni is still considered as a leader because of the silence of parliamentarians. If we have institutions decampaigning Museveni on an intellectual level, brothers and sisters, Museveni won't have any privilege on which to unleash brutality on the people of the Republic of Uganda. Brothers and sisters, Museveni lost legitimacy 5 years ago. This is the process of which we call the eradication of Musevenism. It will never to be easy. It is not easy at all. But let's continue moving. Let's continue moving. We encounter a lot of disappointments along the way, but we are not going to be deterred by those disappointments. Our endurance have revealed to us the morals that were within our trusted infrastructure. Brothers and sisters, let us continue exhibit that resilience. Philosophy reminds us that the vacuum of hostility, the vacuum of adversity, it is fortitude. That was self-evident in the completed Kawempe by-elections. Brothers and sisters, people showed Museveni that we are not going anywhere. We are looking forward to bring back leadership into the hands and the guidance of the Constitution. We shall not be intimidated by Anita Mongo's proposal. These are people who are strategizing to stay afloat, but they know spiritually that they are sinking. Ugandans are well awakened. They know what they want. They know what they want. Museveni fought for 6 years, massacring people, and he still does massacre people in the digitized era. But we have just fought, and we are still fighting for the past 4 years or 6 years, Mr. Museveni has been weakened. All the things he has constructed within 40 or 50 years or 70 years, they have been rendered to nothing because of our stepping up, because of this night shift, because of the presence, undeniably, Kyagulanyi Ssentamu Robert, in whom the people entrusted the responsibility of leadership. So, brothers and sisters, let us continue mobilizing each other. Now, on a serious note, brothers and sisters, you know, in this conundrum of Musevenism, we should refrain from covering on things we know that they are detrimental to the strategies we are all laying out, right? We receive critical information implicating people who are trusted by the general public, but people are afraid to expose these individuals, perhaps thinking, how will the general public perceive me if I speak something against this individual, right? Now, I'm pointing out to some individuals in the so-called United Forces of Change. Brothers and sisters, this is what causes our struggle to be absorbed into a politician's ways of thinking, right? Now, we have a division of political ideologies, and these ideologies hinders the unification of the people whom they claim to be leading, right? Us, Ugandans, the lay people. So information indicates that some of prominent leaders in other political parties clandestine and secretly connive with Museveni to destroy the leadership which is well embraced by the general public, that is National Unity Platform. Brothers and sisters, during the entire by-election process, there was a plot to assassinate Joel Sonyonyi. And a strategy was laid on the table by a man who is trusted. That is General Mugisha Muntu. Brothers and sisters, I'm not sowing a seed of divisionarism here, but we need to be quite sure, who are we dealing with? Are these people on the same page of bringing a Uganda that respects the rule of law, or they are protecting a spoil? We need to ask ourselves these questions. Otherwise, we will be washing while hanging on the dirt of which we are not accepting. Thus, we expose these individuals publicly so that the people can weigh the information and come to a conclusion whether the information is valid or invalid. Right now, Mr. Mugisha Muntu proposes that Kyagulanyi Joel Ssenyonyi must be eliminated because has become a very, very difficult hindrance in the Museveni's opposition to cling on to power, right? That he must be eliminated, and in the order to soothe the general public, Nalukola should be declared the winner. Yet the people of Kawempe had made him a winner prior to all of these Mugisa Montu's plots to destroy Joel Ssenyonyi, that he has become too much. He speaks too much. None of their sycophants can compete with him on the floor of parliament when articulating and expound matters of national importance. Brothers and sisters, all intellectualists, all academicians, all men of nobility in Uganda, they are quiet, not because they are devoid of Museveni's brutal regime in parliament, but they are accustomed to bribery. You can hear Elder Katuntu when he speaks. You hear him twisting tongues. Elder, as he is a man with a political career, but he has accepted to be relegated to tokenism. So now Mugisha Muntu wants to kill people, young men, Mr. Mugisha Muntu. Really? What is it that you have not seen? Tell me, what kind of regime, Mugisha Muntu, are you waiting to witness falling? What kind of history haven't you read? Mr. Mugisha Muntu, you think you can connive and things will remain hidden in the digitized era? And you vote to kill a person who exposed you? You vote to spend the least of the money extracted from taxpayers' money. You accumulated each and everything. We never cared, Mugisha Muntu. In these 5 years, you continue plotting against us because of Chagulanyi's central existence in the political arena. Now he selected young men of his caliber, people who refuse to relent, people who refuse to be intimidated, people who refuse to be bought by money. Mugisha Muntu, you are plotting against these individuals. You think we can be quiet and be contented and be hopeful for a new Uganda when you are within us? How mockery are you? You always step in National Unity Platform headquarters, Mugisha Muntu, with your lady entourage. It is always a mockery. I knew it. The ideology of Museveni still lingers to your minds because you are unaccomplished in spoil. You destabilized the Uganda, Mr. Mugisha Muntu. You are not a Ugandan national. We cannot refrain from reciting these kind of sentiments because you continue conniving behind us. Mr. Mugisha Muntu, we are not segregative, but the reality is tribal sentiments will never be eliminated in our consciousness because Museveni is subjugating us because he wants to establish his tribal, his tribalism in Uganda. That is why he is oppressing Ugandans. But he was embraced freely. He was allowed even to reach the highest echelon of leadership in the land. He never appreciated. The same applies to you, Mugisha Muntu. The same applies to many of you, 27 of you, name you all. You're still driving the same ideology. You are trying to make this a protracted war. Why can't you leave change to take course? Ugandans are forgiving people. We can reconcile to each other, but stop conniving against us. Mr. Mugisha Muntu, stop conniving against us. How do you expect us to be quiet when Audrey Rawog goes to Kenya and outsource medics, surgeons, because Ugandans have refused to kill their fellow Ugandans to take their internal organs? And then Audrey Rawog, you go to Kenya, you outsource 100 surgeons to come to keep your business afloat of dealing in eternal organs. You expect us to be quiet? To be quiet and look at parliamentarians who gave you that authority? And you expect us to be quiet?
Comrade. Hello, comrade, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, yes. I was just trying to say that, okay, in a minute, I'm having so many mics. Maybe in a minute, you can wind up, comrade.
Let me land. So, brothers and sisters, my exposing of this information here, it is not to stain anybody's image or their career in military and in social justice, but we have failed to find one, because the courts in Uganda cannot listen to the just claims of the natives of Uganda. We have witnessed a man lamenting that he is willing to go to Burkina Faso, a new democracy, while Museveni celebrating 40 years in power. People are still being grabbed off their land, ancestral land, taken away from them. Ever since people were relocated from Bududa, how often do you hear landslide? This was all orchestrated. They plant their explosive. They oppress the land, they oppress people, they steal minerals, they have turned us into useless, rags. Eh? How can we be quiet? How can we be quiet? These people, nobility, they are there conforming to Museveni's dictates. No, we refuse to conform. We refuse to comply. We refuse. Our cultural leaders, we refuse to comply. Tujja kusiwuuka empisa paka tumaze okwejjako Museveni. Tujja kuddamu twetereeze. Buganda, nze ne musajja mu
So, what is different here? Any difference? Because they're the same characters, same people, same challenges, because your analysis, same situations. Your analysis is to divorce and make it appear like this was just like an isolated incident. By the way, in public relations, this is one of the easiest things. If you ever take a public relations class, the first way to deny something is to say it was an isolated incident. This is not, okay? I think the public just, when you sit back, you look at consistent pattern, at least especially with regard to NUP in Kampala, of deaths, miming, abductions. Of course, now the journalists have come into the fray. My sense, actually, is that our colleagues were beaten there, were just beaten the same manner. But you also see a consistent pattern of the actions against the rules of the game. What rules? That's why I'm surprised at the way you're characterizing this. I was on a show the other day in a different station, and I made the comment that you know what it takes to train a member of the special forces. They're trained to kill with precision. To those guys you see there on the street, some of them may have served in areas of urban combat in the Horn of Africa. Okay, you equip them with.
We had so much fun shooting this, guys. We were so loaded up on ice cream at the end of the video, but we had so much fun.
In the general construction of a
stores, the new packaging,
and even the construction of defense, they are meant to protect the country against external threats. That's the weight of what you're seeing on the street. So when you see same highly trained Ugandans, and deployed, by the way, with weapons of war, troop carriers, basically like that, it was like an urban warfare scene. You cannot characterize that as something normal, which is why I'm kind of surprised that you are going in the direction of saying perhaps this is normal rules of democracy that are being infringed here. It is not. It's an abnormal situation. If you allow me a few minutes, I'm also seeking clarification from you, because you're looking at the side of security, but you're not looking at the actions. Why are you taking the actions out of the picture? If they act as gangsters, they intimidate, wherever they go, they intimidate everyone who is there. They try to be above the law. Wait. Yes, they try to be. NUP will no longer be categorized as a political party. Honorable. But as a gang. Honorable. And dealing with it, you have to pull out all the cards. Honorable. Honestly. May I respond just briefly, Canary?
Let me do this before you respond. We are talking about the violence meted on journalists.
Okay.
And I would wish to be categorized, or how you would wish to categorize it does not matter. The violence meted on the journalists. First of all, there's an impression created. Of course, I saw the clash between NUP and the security forces and how they were treating NUP from day one, meanwhile, of nomination, not even campaigns. And this dates way back from the previous campaigns when NUP became a political party. It
dates back to 2001. When PP was shooting people in Rukunji,
there was no NUP. It dates back for opposition. Yeah. But you see, opposition for this particular election, actually, they queued up and waited for the results until 4 p.m. What we do not understand is how security shows up at the polling stations and starts beating up journalists. It's not that they were trying to, it's far away from preventative that you're trying to describe. Angelo, you had something?
No, I wanted us to set aside the issue of the attack on journalists, because I think what you had malice and a treatment of people you don't like with extreme prejudice by those who have the power to do it. That's really what I think we even know the person who sat in the background there and said, you go and smack those journalists. And maybe people are afraid to say who he is, but I think it is fairly well known. But I wanted to say this. So we're talking about violence in this current political season. And I got a call from the president's political advisor, the long-serving one, Moses Piaranga, who I've known for over 2 decades. And his take was that crowd control, civil crowd control capacity of the Uganda police is not sufficient. That's a fair point, okay? And and I told him, look, it can also be that the crowd control issues extend to non-political situations. So, a public health issue, there could be a riot unrelated, a market fire. So I think that to address this question of what the military is on the streets, you could say, let's go back and look at the capacity of the police. But you have to set all of that aside, because I think that, what we are seeing here is an unusual use of military violence in our streets. And there's a thread there. And Honorable, look, if we were to use political logic, and I have to congratulate the National Resistance Movement, because they took the political fight to the NUP heartland. That is a constituency that was previously, the MP was an NUP MP, overwhelmingly voted for in the last election. So the NRM, including the president, by going and contesting there, that is, they have to be congratulated for taking that political fight there. No, that's your characterization. I think that it is a fair thing for them to go and fight. But this deployment of soldiers in the way that was done, that I think is something that we should reflect on seriously, because it is very unusual. And we can now start thinking about why this happened. And if you say the president said mistakes were made, perhaps there's much more clarity as to why these mistakes were made, but why isn't clear to me. Perhaps the politicians here. Yeah.
Let me ask Benjamin. There's so many things that we're unable to see as media that we would have questions about. What exactly took place when the cameras were shut?
Well, particularly on that day, there was a lot of violence meted out to a number of our leaders and supporters. The mayor of Shira municipality, Julius Mutebi, is hospitalized. Honorable Kayemba Soro is hospitalized. Honorable Chiyaga is hospitalized. Among others, the mayor of Chengera, Walukaga, was beaten terribly. Your colleagues in the media were with him in the cells at Kawempe, and they can narrate you the stories of how he was beaten. And to say that this violence was largely done by about 3 categories of people. 1, the army. Number 2, RDCs. There is one notorious one called Robert Kambu, among others. The third category is the gangs, and my brother here is talking about gangs, but they were criminal gangs led by a minister in the government, Baram, that went around causing havoc at polling stations, destroying electoral materials, disrupting counting processes, and making sure that at some polling stations there was no counting at all. But the events on that day cannot be divorced from the events of the entire campaign and the events that have been unfolding in the political arena in this country.
I saw a number of your supporters, agents and leaders hospitalized.
Yes.
Were these ones, were they targeting particularly the agents at the polling stations?
You see, this was the trajectory. They would come and target, because there were supervisors for the agents. I've given examples of the MPs and other leaders. So they had specific polling stations they targeted, I think on account of numbers, like Kazoa Angola, like Mbogo, like Kanyanya, which were targeted on account of numbers where they wanted to do the ballot stuffing from, because we had all this information. And we had deployed the senior leaders there as supervisors for the agents. So how events played out, they would come and take away these supervisors, arrest, beat them, take them away. In the similar manner that journalists were taken away from these polling stations. And after that, the plan was to chase away the agents at the polling desk, who were chased away. But because the citizens stayed and couldn't go away, that's now why they brought in gangs that caused the chaos to disrupt the process. Yeah, but before that question, I was giving the broader context of the problem. That contrary to what my brother Enos here, the picture that he tries to paint, that this violence is on account of behavior of NUP, and this has been coming from the NRM people. Of course, is dishonest, because the political violence in Uganda, especially under Museveni, precedes the birth of NUP. Earlier alone, I gave an example of 2001 when people were shot on the streets of Rukunjiri by PPU. I don't know where Twokindaura is now. He was the commander of that group. You know very well in 2006 how people were killed even here at Burangi and in other places. You remember the activities of Karangara Action Plan of Kakoza Mutare. In 2021, Angelo here has painted a fair picture of what transpired. You had people and Museveni bragged live on air that they brought in a commando unit from Somalia to engage unarmed civilians. So the beating of journalists, the journalists are citizens, except that they have been enjoying some privilege. The Ugandans have been beaten over time, they have been tortured, subjected to illegal detentions. Now, the journalists' turn has come, and this is not the first time. Next, it will be judges. The MPs have been given their fair share of beating. Gerald here can tell you how previously they were beaten in Parliament. So you need to understand about two things. One is that there has been a fusion in Uganda of the person of Museveni and the state of Uganda. When you are considered an opponent of Museveni, the attitude is that you are now an enemy of the state and you are targeted as such. That is why you are handled as a terrorist, as a threat to national security. They deploy that. They deploy special forces command that are trained to counter threats to national security, and now they are dealing with civilians. Then number two is that the security forces consider themselves an extension of the political machinery of Museveni. So when they are deployed in Kawempe, the mentality is that they must stop the opposition from winning at whatever cost. So what you see of people being shot, of people being beaten, including journalists now, is part of our way. So that's how you become targets.
Now, Benjamin, so, all sorts, types, forms, shapes of guns were in Kawempe, tanks, mambas, and commandos. I actually looked at the guns of the UPDF uniformed guys. These didn't look like our usual UPDF. These looked like they were special forces. I could tell there was something different about them, even their way of conduct. But that's besides the point. What I wanted to ask is that even with all this violence, the NRM candidate lost. Do you think that this deployment and the violence was particular, targeting journalists in order for the NRM candidate to win? Is it just that?
Not just to win, but you see, the NRM has degenerated into a military dictatorship. Dictatorships thrive, among other things, on fear. How do you entrench fear? The next time a journalist is deployed to cover such a process, he will be cautious. The population is already scared. So and as we head towards 26, you need this fear more than ever before. But number two, you can only govern people either through consent or coercion. Now the NRM has largely lost the ability to govern through consent, so it must govern through coercion. And how do you achieve coercion? By using the sophisticated guns you are talking about, by rolling tanks on the polling day. And this has not just happened. In 2021, you remember, on the eve of the voting day, there were members and other sophisticated military equipment on the streets of Kampala. These are not mistakes like Museveni would want us to believe. Well, it could only reduce on the degree of the victory of NUP. In any case, and I mentioned that these were targeted polling stations, the gangs commanded by Baram are the ones that disrupted the counting process at those polling stations. I don't think there are any results to declare from those polling stations.
So, but you think it's fair to declare an election when 15 polling stations have not been considered?
Well, we are the biggest complainants in this process.
Sometimes,
how do we know?
Sometimes in the Premier League, a team is handed the trophy before even the games are completed.
But my question is, of course, my question is,
you see, that's the point.
In a fair process,
that's the point.
You think
that the Electoral Commission found it okay to go on and declare a winner before 15 polling station results are entered?
There's something not right.
Exactly.
But there's something not right.
Now you're asking the same question. There has not been, in all these processes, there has been unfairness, there has been injustice, but the orchestrator has been NRM. And I've given you an example that at those particular polling stations, and I think in this process, NRM gave up on the possibility of winning, but now
I'm trying to figure out.
They are fighting with embarrassment.
Allow me to ask Katan. This kind of unfairness you're talking about, where you win an election and you are declared, and I'm sure next week I will see your candidate, or now your victor and MP elector, right? In Parliament being sworn in. In this unfair system you're talking about, in this dictatorship, where you have 57 members of parliament. What kind of dictatorship is this? Where you're the leader of majority opposition party in parliament.
What does dictatorship
and
mean? I think that's the starting point.
System. I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying to figure out. Possibly, I might be ignorant about this. Just educate me. The kind of dictatorship where you can do whatever you're doing and you're thriving. Actually,
dictatorship actually doesn't mean that there are no opposition. Dictatorship doesn't mean that there is no parliament or semblance of parliament, but it means absolute control of state institutions to serve the interests of an individual or a group. And we have portrayed to you a clear picture of how now there is a fusion and Museveni controls the army should be for the people of Uganda, and he's only commander-in-chief by law. He controls all these institutions. Whatever he wants will take place. And that's the point that we are making, and that's why we are telling you that this is a dictatorship.
Okay. Joining us on the show is Jared Karuhanga, former legislator and now spokesperson of the Alliance for National Transformation. Good to have you on the show. And NT have a candidate.
An understanding, because we relate quite well with UP, that where we don't have a big footing in a given area, there is no reason for us to fight. Yet we are all pursuing the same, to remove the NOCs out of power, so that we can have stability and democracy in this country once and for all. And so, and this is not the first time. When we were in Serere, when Honorable Lasso ran, group came and supported us.
Yeah.
And so it was more or less also saying, look, this is in the spirit of working together and building unitary formation.
Okay.
Now, about what we are talking about today, first of all, hearing our colleague, Honorable, you know, how can the orchestrator of violence be the complainant of polling stations that were never declared? And for me, this is very serious.
Cheated. It's not about us, it's about our candidate.
You know, Mambas went and parked in the middle of the polling stations. I wonder how you cheat something like that.
No, the Mambas
and the guns were looking always like.
Can we also be fair? Sorry, Gerard. Can we be fair and we separate the security forces from NRM, the party? No, we should also separate the two.
How you know,
but he's making a good.
Let me just start. There's a video clip that has been making rounds. Maybe you may have seen it. When Paul Mayombo was asked about why he supported the renaming of the army being called UPDF as opposed to being called Uganda Army Armed Forces. And he made a point and said that one, well, Uganda is about Uganda, but then the mission of UPDF was clear in the name itself. It was people's defense, and then the forces, of course, was in case where they have to create a marine and other branches, so they're already in one group. But when he talks about defense forces, he says, look, many people think the army is a killing machine. He says the army must be formed, structured, to make sure that it protects and makes the safeguards of the Constitution very paramount, that the people appreciate that once and for all, you will not see people running out from the army, but they should run to the army for protection. And so he really makes a very, very short clip. And for me, this is where this whole thing, if you study what has been prevailing, this, like the colleague said, has not been just a one-day thing. No, there has been an intentional, deliberate effort, both structurally but also practically, in the armed forces to ensure that step by step you have an army or forces that are largely indeed are focused on serving the interests of one man. And if you want to see this practically, it's not very difficult. There we all know the men and women in uniform before who would never accept some of these things. And one by one have been pushed to the periphery, either the periphery or even out. Even some have disappeared or died in ways that we are still very questioning. So think about it. There was one particular afternoon in Parliament when we pressed hard to understand what happened in Kasese. How on earth today one can walk into a palace and kill people as if you are literally killing terrorists? And then the CDF, Katumba Wamala, I remember he made a statement and I think most of us really took it very seriously. He said, he was very emphatic and very quick. He said, there are some orders that I can give, or I give as CDF, and those that are below me. There are some orders that I don't give. And I want to be clear that what happened in Kasese was not among my orders. So, meaning that they are those officers who ordinarily have appreciated the essence of security forces, the importance of divorcing forces from politics and have overtime. If you have been keen overtime the other day, I mean, you saw the two Moses, the former CDF and the current CDF, one saying, no way, you cannot have security men and women literally in masks. How do you differentiate between the gangs and the gangsters and the decent people?
The other one is disagreeing.
And the other, the current CDF says, no, you can't. I mean, where is it written? Where? And I think, wait a minute. So this degeneration, and to be even more practical, I mean, I have run into Tungamo twice, and I actually think I'm here to establish whether it's worth it.
Because you said that.
As we are, all of us here, because I believe we are all responsible of the outcomes and everything when it comes to these elections, let us do more sensitization.
So bright and flavor and in appearance. Oh, yummy. Whoa. But that's for choice. I know one recipe that will definitely drive everyone crazy.
But that point has been here on me, and as like whenever we get an opportunity, I'll try to tell people about what this means to us when it comes to these special interest group elections.
Thank you, Comrade.
Mr. Amey.
Yes, please.
Can I just briefly give you just 2 factors that influence this election?
All right. Can that be like in a minute? Thank you.
In a minute, I'll do that. First, it's information, and I think I've explained that enough. The role of Electoral Commission and other players. If people do not have this information, no one is going to apply to even vie for these elections, and even people won't go for voting. Secondly, youth elections are the most highly monetized elections in this country. In 2015, I was a member. I was one of the people who were voting the National Female Youth MP and the Eastern MP. But these electoral colleges are highly monetized to an extent that some candidates were giving out motorcycles. I can tell you, I got 2 smartphones in that election. Like, those are some of the things they were giving out. If I'm to talk about monetization of this election, I cannot talk about it in just a minute, but I'll just give you those 2 factors, and maybe when you get enough time, I can explain in detail. And that is why most of the young people, even those who know about this position, especially councillor elections, local council councillors, and then MP, because they are voted for by the youth councils, shy away from these elections because they are highly, highly monetized. A candidate has to book over 30 hotels to host delegates to vote them. What does that mean?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You already.
In conclusion, thank you. Go ahead. In conclusion.
No, I just wanted to bring out those 2 issues, and I think I'm done. Maybe I cannot give an explanation because of the time, but that is it. Those are the 2 most influencing factors of this election.
Wow. Let me come in. Yeah, it's becoming interesting. Maria, I have analyzed those issues, and Sylvia talks about like over 10,000 villages in Central, and like NRM is having like nine members on every village. So we need to multiply that, because and the most important point I wanted to make is like, let us focus our channels, our social media, because social media is the deal right now. We need to use our channels to ensure that we pass this information. Since Maria has explained that there are 2 main factors determining a news election. The communication, which is information, and some guy said information is power. If you are not informed, you are left out. Then the money, which we don't have, I don't know how we can address that, but we can still try to do what we can. I had a question which is totally different. Just came in, and I wanted to hear from you, our leaders, like how are youth MPs being elected? Because Maria talked about how the system has been, politics has been commercialized. Youth politics or elections has been commercialized. Maria, maybe in a minute, how are youth MPs are being elected?
Oh, it smells amazing.
So the National Youth MP is voted for by the National Youth Council, which is composed of the chairperson, secretary for female affairs, and secretary for finance of every district, and then 18 representatives from UNSA. Those vote for the National Female Youth, for the National Female Youth MP. And then the regional MPs, for example, the ones in Eastern, the ones in the Western Youth MP, the Eastern Youth MP, elected by Youth Council and elected by the district and city youth councils in that particular region.
Wow, thank you so much for your question.
And to make it a bit more clear, the district youth councils are composed of the secretary, the chairperson, secretary for female affairs, secretary for finance of every sub-county division or town council in that particular district. And then two UNSA delegates at the district level.
Thank you so much, Maria. So this is shows how we need to improve. It's high time we need to wake up, because like the current MPs are all NRM, because they have been having these structures, or like as Sylvia has mentioned, So what we need to do is we need to have this in place by the time we be voting these MPs, so that at least shall make it more competitive than making it like it has been an NRM thing. So Mr. Co-host, please take over. I want just clarification, and I think our audience have gotten the answer.
Okay. Thank you, Comrade Natavi and Namutiawa, for taking us through that phase of our discussion. Yeah, we've been looking at the factors that influence the youth participation, and then we've learned that the Electoral Commission in Uganda has not done enough to, give out information to young people and the population about the existence of these elections. I mean, the entire process. The Electoral Commission hasn't done that. And then we are given taxpayer money to do so. So accountability, where does the money go? They are so incompetent when it comes to that. And then that is a factor that influences participation in these elections. And then the other factor is interest. Comrade Namtiaba has told us that people are not interested. The leaders and the youth, they don't take the youth elections really important. So we call upon our leaders, the youth, the entire population to pick interest in these youth elections. All right. That takes us to the next phase of our discussion, ladies and gentlemen. I'm called Mr. Amazing. I'm the Secretary for the Youth NUP Boston Chapter, Boston, Massachusetts, United States. The next phase of our discussion is about mobilization and engagement. We're going to talk about how to mobilize and then get the youth engaged in the youth elections. All right. And to guide that next phase of our discussion, a few questions. The first question is, how can we ensure that more young people across Uganda actively participate in these elections? That is the first question. How can we ensure that more young people across Uganda actively participate in these elections? I think we need to sensitize them. We need to spread the message. We need to educate them. We need to create vehicles of spreading information about the youth elections, because we've learned that the Electoral Commission hasn't done enough. In Uganda, it is literally ourselves for ourselves. The institutions are not working, and the Electoral Commission inclusive does not work. So it goes back to us, the people, to spread the information, to educate the population about the youth elections, and we get them involved. So they don't know that these elections really exist and they're important. So we need to go around the country, spread the word, and inform the people about the youth elections. That is what I think we can do to get more people on board across Uganda to participate in these elections. All right. I'll now take it to our youth leaders as well as our co-hosts. How do you answer this question? What do you think can be done to ensure that more young people across Uganda actively participate in these elections? Co-host as well as the youth leaders. Please take it on from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Comrade. Amazing. I'd like to give the opportunity to Mr. Western Prince to give us his view. How effective can we ensure that young people participate effectively in this election? What can we need to do? What do we need to do as leaders to ensure that more people are participating? 70% of the population are young people. So, Mr. Prince, Western Prince, please bring in your view as a leader.
Yes, once again, good evening, friends. Hope I'm audible enough this time around.
Sure, you're clear.
All right. Friends, personally, I do tell the people I live with and the different corners where we keep engaging that we are at a point that we have to push the baby. We are in labor shoot. My communication this evening is about hope and then action. Ugandans here and abroad have lost hope. And you see, it is hope that drives any revolution. And the day we lose hope, then we lose it all. Today we are talking about a very, very expensive, but again, very vital step in this revolution we are engaged in. If we are to be sincere and we have to mobilize and sensitize the young people such that they actively get involved in youth elections, and not just youth elections, but the special interest groups as a whole, because that's what we are going into. This is a marathon, ladies and gentlemen. For as long as we have no hope in whatever it is that we have to do, and you have a one Western Prince who is probably showing some lukewarm energy among the rest of the friends that we have to keep with, then we are going nowhere. We have to revive our hope. We have to rebuild the hope in everyone around us. But you see, we cannot have this hope anymore if the information flow is curtailed the way it is in Uganda. So I was trying to make some research around my teams that I move with. As long as we do the talking so much than the actions, we lose it out. Very many young people out there are not informed. And partly this is a regime ploy. They make sure that channels of information are curtailed. And we have accounts maybe, for instance, on social media, but not everyone is on social media. Yes, we can have majority people there, but what are the exact numbers if we are to get into details of this? The recent research I made was that not more than 3 million Ugandans are on social media. But again, not more than half of the people who are on social media are engaged in political awareness. So at the end of the day, yes, we use our social media handles, and I salute everyone who does that. We are at least not where we started from. But even when we awaken people using our social media handles, we do not even reach out to even half of our target audiences. So what is my view here? My view is we should, one, deliberately find out who our audience is. Two, we make research and find out if we able to reach out to these people using our methods of mobilization that we are doing. But you'll find out that we have to get our boots on ground. We have to move in these different areas. When you interact with the young people, deep down in these other areas, for instance, I represent Western Uganda, talk of areas like Ankole, Renzori, and these other different sub-regions. You find out that people simply need your presence there. You have to reach out to them. You have to give them this confidence. You have to give them the hope again. I would like to bring it to light that many of us thought that we had started in 2017, because many of us joined in 2017 active politics, and we thought it was coming to end or to be done in 2021. Many of us didn't know it would be a marathon, that would need us. Revolutions take up to 8 years, 15 years, or even 30 plus years. So we need to get on the drawing board, ladies and gentlemen. We on ground and many of our friends in the diaspora to know that we started a no-return journey and that we are at a point where we have to deliver the twins. Here we are. Our people are not informed. That's a fact. Yes, we have tried to reach out to the different corners that we can, but we have not done enough. And so it's my clarion call this evening to everyone listening in that it is time to double our efforts, or if we can, even triple the efforts. Reach out to the people. The more we sensitize people and we awaken them civically, the more they turn up. Look at our election in Kawempe. I want to bring our attention to that. The only reason we stood against the brutality and the rigging, such that we limited the rigging machinery reaching their final destination, was that one, the citizens were awakened. The citizens are at least to some level of awareness, and they know their roles to play. It may not be 100% or even 90%, but at least some level of creation of awareness. And if you look deeply at the efforts that we have to put on ground, it is more physical than the talk. The talking is good. We appreciate it. It has done so much. It is time we have players on ground moving here and there and engaging in the different churches, in our mosques, in our barrios, in our marriages, and these very many different areas of congregation. Otherwise, people need change, but our hope is kind of swindling down. This has, I think, been my communication this evening, that we need to lay strategies of reaching out. Action, action, and action. And our major call is reawakening the hopes of the people and getting them informed. For instance, the youth elections, ladies and gentlemen, is almost an NRM affair everywhere in this country. Be it Central Region, it is only in 2021 where we had to at least awaken. I was in Nakasongola by then, and as I talk currently, I am the speaker of one of the town councils in there. Though currently so much deeply engaged in Western region where my very, very real roots are. But you would see that NRM got surprised that Ugandans are waking up to take it up as a general election kind of affair than an NRM kind of primaries.
In conclusion,
thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Western Prince Wambale, all the way from Western Uganda, Kunga, Western Uganda, Kunga. All right, thank you so much, comrade. Ladies and gentlemen, we are looking at how we can get the youth to be actively participating in these forthcoming youth elections that are going to take place in June. And the Western Prince has told us that people have lost hope. And then people need to stay hopeful. They need to keep the hope in elections. How do we do that? The Western Prince has told us that we need to sensitize our people. We need to double efforts to spread information about the significance of elections, especially the youth elections, as well as participating in those elections. So we need to double our efforts to sensitize and inform our people. Thank you very much, Western Prince Bwambale. That takes us to the next guiding question in this phase of our discussion. We are now going to look at the role of the diaspora in supporting youth participation in these elections. My dear co-host, Mr. Richard Mbai, you are a member of the diaspora. What role can the diaspora play in supporting the youth participation in elections? If you will, please.
Yeah, already what we are doing now is already a role, but I will not answer in that way. However, I would like to take this to give back the microphone to our three remaining our leaders to give up. I would like to hear from them on the first question because it is very important. We need to hear from Maria. We need to hear from Sylvia and Michael. What is how effective can we do to ensure that we take over this youth leadership? Because those young people have been on ground for last 2 months. So I want to I would like to hear to hear from at least everyone. We have heard from Mr. Wambale, and would like to have a submission from the rest of other three leaders. How can we ensure that young people across Uganda? I know it's like we are repeating the same question, but we have 4 different perspectives. We have heard from Western Prince. We may need also to hear from our two sisters on board, and Mr. Michael to hear their perspective since they're on ground. Because honestly, okay, they saw that NUP was just a wave in 2021, but they realized it wasn't a wave. How are we going to make sure that we at least we take some positions in these elections? Because as Maria has explained, it's all about having structures on ground that makes up. We have MPs and these youth councils and leaders. We take those positions. So, Madam Sylvia, please, as a teacher, please try to elaborate how can we ensure that more young people participate in these elections. I am sorry, my co-host, I not answer your question, but I will answer you at the end. Sorry.
No worries, comrade. It's all right. Thank you.
Okay. Before I give in my submission, I would request at least you give an opportunity to my colleague Adonyo Mike from Northern Uganda. Yes, I have so many challenges within my region, but at least when it comes to our comrades who are outside the central region, they suffer the most. So I would request that he submits first before I come in.
All right, thank you. Mr. Adonyo, please, Michael from Northern Uganda. Take us through what is happening in the north.
Yeah, thank you once again, the initiators of this initiative, for this wonderful opportunity to speak to Ugandans and everyone here. Yeah, I've heard everything, and to answer that, I will just speak about a few issues. These challenges are cross-cutting. They don't only affect Northern Uganda. Once we live in Uganda as our area of jurisdiction, we shall all agree that these challenges are cross-cutting. First, I think all of us must agree that since the Electoral Commission has left us with the burden of doing civic awareness, it's going to be onto us to actually do that. The Electoral Commission, as we all know, we cannot say it's non-partisan. We know who they work for, we know who appoints them. So it is going to be our role as Ugandans who love our country, because we don't have any other country, to take up that mantle of educating other Ugandans who may be in the dark. I am also inspired by the different leaders. I was actually not part of politics since until 2017 when I saw Mr. Kyagulanyi rise up. So his rising up inspired me. So it is going to be our role as different leaders to engage in civic awareness at any platform that we can get. In Northern Uganda, the challenge that we have most is the digital divide. The number of people that are online is actually lower than the entire population that we have here. So it is very hard for us to get our message out there via social media. And when it comes to other media outlets, say like radio stations, there is no radio that is going to be willing to host a leader from an opposition party, especially NUP, if you don't pay money, say for airtime on radio. So our challenge has been mostly the digital divide and then the facilitation for us to have our message reach out there. It is only once in a while where maybe they're discussing issues that are cross-cutting. That is when they get the opportunity to invite us. But also these occasions are usually very rare. It is why as leaders here of Northern Uganda, we have resorted to grassroots mobilization. What do we mean by that? Whenever we get an opportunity, say, of attending a burial,
omuntu omu yatiikinze ettiiki eyo ogiraba yonna babadde batiikinga Hanifa ddamu olabe tiiki ogiraba Hanifa.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yes, it's back. Yes, we can. Please proceed.
I was saying, as Northern Uganda, we have resorted to using every opportunity that we get at any social function or any other function within our region, be it a barrier, to make sure we spread our message of change, because other platforms have become expensive and inaccessible for us. There is also need for us to address the different barriers. We have very many barriers that have actually locked us as Northern Uganda away from the country. We look like we are on a planet of our own. Why? I always talk about the fact that Northern Uganda feels like we have been excluded from everything. It is the reason to why we have been requesting that most of even these messages that the comrades share should be translated for our people, for those who are online, so they can access that. We should also have different leaders, especially from the central, because as we speak now, the central is a little liberated. We saw, I was watching on TV last time in Kawempe North, and even the LC1 of the area, you would see is a pro-people person. But when it comes to Northern Uganda, we need more activities that are going to be pro-people. I am very happy that of recent, we did a charity at the youth project in Agweng sub-county, that was in Lira, and that enough is, that a lot shows that it actually attracts us people. So we need to do things that are pro-people, things that are going to make people think that this party is not only in central. We know very well that the regime will always use that propaganda that this party is only party for people in the central. So we need to come down to the people. We need to constantly engage the people through small activities, any activity that we get, any opportunity and activity. I am also very happy that whenever I've invited the president to Northern Uganda, he has at least showed up recently you saw the last time he was in northern Uganda, he came for a burial of a comrade. So that is very, very important if we are to make sure that northern Uganda is at par. So I'm going to also summarize the things that we people in northern Uganda have also done to make sure that we bring northern Uganda to online and and to bring northern Uganda at par. We have also been able to mobilize through universities. We have very many universities in northern Uganda, and we feel if we are to identify leaders who are ideal and who are going to contest, or those who will help us in the future, we had to take advantage of the universities. And we have been doing this together with the institutional wing that is headed by Mr. Musiri. And I'm happy to inform you that this has gone an extra mile and it is very important. But nevertheless, we need to keep engaging these leaders constantly. You know, information and knowledge is power. If you keep sharing this information and knowledge with them, you keep them engaged, and that will shield away the manipulation from these different political actors. We have also been able to identify different and endorse them, different leaders, different youth leaders that we feel that will help us carry up the mantle. These I will not mention here, but we shall use different platforms in the future to mention. I also, under my leadership and guidance, we have also been able to engage with different youth associations. You know, we have different youth groups all over the country that have different initiatives that they're doing, be it beekeeping or farming, but they're youth-led. So we usually try to go and identify ourselves with these young people in these different initiatives with an aim of selling our message of hope and agenda to them. This has been very great because a united group under a theme is very easy to convince. And it is also one of the things. And lastly, we have also empowered some youth through different training programs. We have always organized trainings for our youth. The last training we had was 2 months ago. We invited different youth leaders and empowered them with some training. I believe if we constantly keep doing the things that I've mentioned earlier, I am very sure that we shall be on the right track, and northern Uganda will be on the same line with other regions of this country. I beg to submit.
Thank you, comrade. Thank you so much. Yeah, I've talked about the major challenges like Western Uganda Northern Uganda is facing. Talked about the digital divide. Like most of Northern Uganda region, they lack smartphones. Like there are few smartphones in circulation in the region. You talked about the lack of resources that these radios, they cannot give you airtime unless you pay to have your message passed to the people. And you talked about there's a need for us to translate revolutionary messages into local languages. Yeah, and this reminds me what Mandela said, that when you communicate to a person in his own language, the message reaches to the soul. So we think we need to do that. Then the last point you hinted, you talked about that there is need to be what? Decentralize the party activities. This implies that, if you are going to celebrate some party event, let us move away from secretariats. Let us be taking these party opportunity activities in different regions. So that makes us I would like to give Maria 2 minutes to give it in her submission. Then as we move on, please Maria, take over the floor.
Polling station box
thank you very much. And we have two major issues in Eastern Uganda, though I share some of those challenges that have been talked about in Western and Northern Uganda. Things like media, these elections or anything. In Eastern Uganda, if you focus on using social media, you'll be mobilizing less than 10% of the people. So that is not the most appropriate way
mobilization. And the other issue we have in Eastern Uganda, we have a lot of intimidation. Previously, I'll give a little example. Previously, as we started mobilizing for these elections, we had an assignment where we were training young people, registering and training young people about this election. And in 3 districts, our youth leaders were arrested by RDCs and DPCs and alleging that these people were registering rebels. Yes. So and then that intimidated others from continuing to do the work the party was doing in regards to mobilization and sensitization of young people in regards to the youth elections. So, and then also, of course, we really have a big challenge. You know, this election requires a lot of organization. And with organization, everyone can attest. You can do mobilization with limited resources. It's hard to organize with limited resources because this is an election that requires calculations. Because for any electoral college, the election is like you have to count the number of voters and understand how a minimum of how many you need to win the next election. So that organization alone is a very expensive venture. You had Comrade Sylvia tell you she has to mobilize over 10,000 villages. Mobilizing is easy, but organizing the mobilized forces into getting candidates, into supporting them to win the election, into centralizing at certain parishes or certain levels for you to win the next election is very, very, first of all, in terms of financial, but also in terms of time. I'll give an example. For me, I'm supervising 40 districts. I had to mark these districts into 7 sub-regions. We have 5 sub-regions, 5 major sub-regions in Eastern Uganda. However, TES has 11 districts. It's hard for someone to be able to supervise this rigorous activity. Therefore, we have to go with 2 for the same happens to Busoga, which has 12. So we have at least a minimum of 6 districts. But I can tell you that it is even really very time consuming for even people doing this work to be doing it on a daily. That means they will be leaving their work or they will be leaving their official work to face them and all these annoyances and sacrifice to do this. But also have families to take care of and all that. So the biggest challenges I've seen is 1, intimidation, 2, it is really resource draining in terms of time, money, but also in terms of personnel, because this election is very technical in nature. Just explaining how this election, to just sub-county level, you need to take those trainers to do a training of at least 1 hour. And because of now, which positions are very important here, which positions vote for the councillor here, and all that information. So, those are the major challenges I can speak about.
muntu omu yatikinze tiiki eyo ogiraba yonna babadde batikinga Hanifa ddamu olabe tiiki ogiraba.
Thank you so much, Comrade Maria, for giving us lights. I know you talked about intimidation. I'm from Eastern, and I was in in December. I was in the village. I know what our people were going through. Even me putting up these posters, the RDC, the Gisos, they come and pick them. We had a meeting in Sala, it's like in Chiboku district. They came and arrested the leaders, and when you go there, they release them. But what they want is just to create fear so that other people don't join you. So it's all about what? It's all about like for us to going beyond that intimidation. And talked about the organization, which requires like you need to have a lot of team to ensure that such projects or activities goes on well. So, Honorable Sylvia, any comment in 1 minute, then we proceed.
Okay, thank you so very much. I want to be very different from what my colleagues have submitted in. However, since the point is about mobilization, which is very important and crucial when it comes to the entire process, personally, I would stress again on the issue of the social media, being that as my colleague Michael submitted in that it's not very easy. Like, okay, as we see, we know right now that the mainstream is not on our side. First of all, they're being intimidated and all that. As we are speaking, is it Palo FM? Palo FM right now is off because of airing out what was happening in Kawempe. So we resorted to remaining social media. Yes, my colleague from Western Uganda submitted that we have a very small percentage of Ugandans who are on social media. However, I believe that that very small percentage of people who are on social media, they are the same people who have their parents in the villages, their relatives in the villages. Like, for example, if I get information here, I must make sure that that information that doesn't remain in my house alone. I'll make sure that it reaches all my relatives around me. So, what do I mean? Social media, this era we are in, social media has been good at setting trends. So if we can, all of us, like focus on this, like we talk about every morning, every day about social media, about youth elections, I believe that somehow the information will reach deep down in the villages. And then also, personally, this is what I've been doing, because in my region, at least almost every level, there is someone who is aspiring, maybe for mayorship, MP, or councillorship, whatever, anything. So I've deliberately gathered all of them in their different districts to speak about this, to speak about the youth elections. I educated them so that they can help me in educating others. We've been doing this together with the leadership of the young people within those districts or within those constituencies or divisions, regardless any level where I have a meeting. And then also, I have been leaving them with some assignment where we are going to be identifying young people, because I believe that many of our youth got registered and some of them are not aware of this, and also some of them are not NLM, are not NUP, are not anything. They are just there. They don't know what exactly is going to happen. So we just go and identify all, because what Museveni has been doing is to play with our minds. Like, he has been manipulating, it has been all about manipulation. Like, he manipulates these young people and make them to do what they don't understand. So what we are doing, I've been working with these aspirants, the elected leaders, and even the party leaders where they are, so that we'll be identifying these young people. And I believe in the nearby future, to start probably with April, we are going again to have these retreats. Like, for example, you can say this, like yesterday I was in Mubende district, and I left them with an assignment to make sure that at least we have some youth representatives at every village, so that let alone we can have like something like a bigger retreat where we deliberately educate these young people about this the information, also the leaders. And then from there, I wanted in my region to have a tournament. Simply, this tournament is to create the vibe so that this work of sensitization is not ours, actually, as Maria said. It is supposed to be for electoral commission, but we know who they are working for. They're not working for the people, so they do whatever they are doing in the support of in the line of what Museveni wants. So I'm looking at forming a small tournament. It will be maybe or a gala, not even a tournament. It will be a gala where we have it will be a netball gala specifically talking about like themed with these elections, so that we can create more vibe. And I believe, for my colleagues know this, that it is us here who always set the trend. If it starts booming here in the central region, trust me, everyone will want to know what exactly is going on. And when it comes also to these people who are aspiring for different positions, I have been tough on them. I've been tough on them, telling them, like, for example, you want to be a councillor of 2 parishes. In case you don't, in case you fail in the youth election, I don't know, there is no way you're going to convince the party. That's what I've been so tough on them, actually, they know that. There is no way you're going to convince the party that you want to represent national unity platform in those 2 parishes where you've failed in the youth elections. So I'm trying to connect with all these leaders, the aspirants, the youth leaders for the party, amongst others. So as far as mobilization is concerned, we are on, and we are trying to push. So we are calling upon each and everyone, whoever comes across this information, let us spread it. I know the dictator himself, the reason why right now he's trying to drag us back to the Kawempe by-election, because for him is the way of these elections. He want to catch us off guard. He want to find us unprepared. So we should drop that discussion of Kawempe, which is already done, because we knocked him out. So we should focus now talking about youth elections. Those who don't have the information, enough information, and you need it, you can reach out to any of us. Personally, my number is very public. Those from Eastern region, you can reach out to Maria. You can let us also be like concerned. Let us not leave this job for the youth leaders alone, because at the end of the day, if we win, we are going to win as a team. If we lose, still we are going to lose as a team. Thank you so much. I beg to have me.
Thank you so much, Comrade Sylvia. And I'd like to recognize the presence of Eddie Mutwe. Thank you so much for protecting our president and the very time to tune in. Yeah, Dr. Morgan, thank you so much. You are tuning in, and we have a diaspora chapter teams, and we want to give this opportunity to everyone, those who are living in America and those in Uganda, to share some of the issues you want us, if you have a submission, a question, a supplement on our topic. How prepared are we for the upcoming youth election? It's now we want to open a platform to give an opportunity to our people, so that at least we hear from you. We have at least heard from our leaders. Let us hear from the audience. And whereas Maria Natabi from Kono, you are most welcome. Please feel free to request for the mic, and this in 1 minute, giving your submission. Those within the diaspora and back home, we need to hear from both sides. Thank you so much. Mr. Amazing, please take over the mic.
Yes. Thank you, my co-host, Comrade Richard Mbayo, and our speakers for those submissions. Yes, now we'd like to hear from the diaspora. We set the question: what role can the diaspora play in supporting youth participation in elections? Our comrades in the diaspora, if you can, please request for the mic. Go ahead and give in your submissions. How can the diaspora be of support to the youth in Uganda to be actively engaged in youth elections. Open floor, like my co-host has just told us, our comrades in the diaspora.
Yes, it's open. Diaspora as well as those back home, please. It's open space. Let us hear from you guys. Let us start with Comrade Morgan, Governor Morgan. Within 2 minutes, what's your submission, sir?
Thank you. Please confirm if you're hearing me.
Yes, I do.
Apparently, I'm not going to use the entire 2 minutes. I want to first thank the team that is organizing for the youth elections that we are headed for. The youth elections particularly come before the general elections, so they are always a warm-up for us to set a stage for what we are going to face in the general elections. Well, me, I'm going to ask each of the youth leaders from the 4 regions. One, in the last youth elections, how did we perform in your area? Sylvia, how did we perform in Buganda? Natalie, how did we perform in the eastern region? Adonyo, how did we perform in the northern region? And my brother, Western Prince, how did we perform in Western Uganda? What is the percentage that we were able to gain in your area? And which percentage are you looking forward to in the coming elections? Particularly, I happen to be present in the 2021 youth elections, and you know, it has a lot of science. It needs a person who is on ground, who understands the geographics, or who understands the standards of the area. What is that you put on point that is going to help us to win these elections? Because as far as I know, the NRM is more interested in this because, you know, it is evident NUP is the party of the youth. Now what the NRM wants to show that it has more youth leaders. How does NUP happen to say it is the party of the youth, yet we are having a bigger percentage on all youth leadership platforms? So I want to ask, what is the percentage you're looking forward to this time round in your region? How did we perform last time? What percentage have you set for yourself these coming elections, and how are we achieving that? Thank you.
Thank you, Governor Morgan. Yeah, I would like to give each of our main key speakers, our leaders from each region, at least to answer, to give us feedback on those 2 questions. How did we perform the previous elections based on your region? Then how did you, what percentage did we get? Yeah, who's ready for any region?
Okay, first of all, forgive me. My phone is going to black out, and I don't have electricity where I am right now. Electricity is off, so I think this is going to be my last submission unless power comes back. So personally, it is kind of disappointing, being that the region where I come from, which is Buganda region, is our stronghold. We shouldn't take that for granted. However, by then, I wasn't a youth leader because I was appointed towards the end of 2022. We all saw what happened, the challenges. By then, I think the national unity platform was in court. There was a lot of confusion. You could find that some areas where people had to, where the young people had to get stamps still, you could find that someone could tell them, now your party is not ready, you come for DP. You know, there was a lot of confusion, and we are not ready. So in the entire region, where I have 26 districts and 1 city, we managed only to score 1 district, and I respect. I think it was because by then it was the efforts of Honorable Zake. The only district where we managed to score to get a youth chairperson, district chairperson, is in Mitiana, in my region. So the performance when it comes to Wakiso, these are the Kampala Metropolitan and these nearby districts, we somehow tried somewhere we have some few sub-counties, others stopped on the parish levels, and also it was so challenging to these cattle corridor districts where we have districts like Lakai, we have this of Ring of Kagabo, where we have districts like Chankwanzi, where we have districts like which one else? Those were the cattle corridor districts here in Uganda. However, right now, I believe that honestly, there are so many challenges, but we've had time. We've had time. All we need to do is to keep sensitizing so that everyone pay attention to this. At least my target, I've been targeting at least to have 15 districts, for them safe. I listed them down. I want to mention them for the sake of some information we need to keep it within ourselves. And also, I've been targeting these districts which have so many sub-counties. Let me tell you, when you try to dig deep into this system of Museveni, this guy has been I don't know. For example, when it comes to electing the youth MP, for instance, for this region in Uganda, where I come from, the Abantu are in charge of doing that. There are those, the one who's from these three, the major three people, where we have the chairperson, where we have the treasurer, and where we have the female secretary for every sub-county. Now, when you look at districts like Wakiso, I think it has the biggest, the highest number of the sub-counties, which are 27. Now, it is everyone can see that being that Wakiso is the most populated district in Uganda. That one, at least they gave us that one, so that you don't focus on it and what. Now, when you go deep and you dig, you're going to look at all these districts which are in the cattle corridor, where we have people like Tagavo, those ones, the Rainbow, where we have the Chankwanzi, where we have the Kasanda, all those cattle corridor districts. They have the highest number of sub-counties, and I believe this was deliberate, because they know that we are going to be excited in Wakiso, Kampala, Mukono, these ones around here, so that we focus on these ones. And you forget the other ones. For them, they go and they they focus on those ones which are in the cattle corridor, so that they win all those sub-counties to bring their people up to come and elect for the youth MP. I believe that time may not be enough to dig deeply, you guys. We need to pay much attention to these elections, because they are very important, being that it is like an experiment for the general one. I would wish to end here due to my birthday. I had charged, but I don't know what has happened. Power is off. So thank you so much, guys.
Sylvia, before you go, I want to ask, at this, Western Prince, you could please mute for a minute. We are headed for these elections, and we haven't seen any aspirant for youth MP for the Senate. How are you preparing for such position too? Because it also falls in your docket as the youth leader for the Central Region. How are you preparing for that? Because it is embarrassing if we can't secure that seat as NUP in the Central Region. You will have no excuse. How are you preparing for that seat? Because it comes from the region that our support base starts from, and then spreads to other regions.
Okay. As my colleagues have been submitting in, that these electoral college elections are far different from the general ones. However much right now we put out to the candidates, we say now this one is going to represent this region or the other one, it may not make any sense, because these are what we should focus on right now. Number one is mindset change, that we focus on training these people. Remember, it comes from the village. Like as Maria, my colleague, explained at the very beginning, that everyone who registered, every young person who registered with the Electoral Commission, they are going to belong to the youth council of that village. So they are going to be in charge of electing the committee. Now, this elected committee at the village level, like for example, in my parish where I come from, Nabingo Parish, we have 5 villages. Now, all those 99 in those 5 villages, they are going to form what we call a parish council. They
Yes.
the garbage out. So it is very important. Our focus right now is on who is going to which we are not just going to abandon them, assuming that they are going to do what is right. That's why we are trying to yes, the time is not enough, but we are trying to fix the time we have so that we identify them on time, these people at the village level, so and then we can have enough time to train them to probably, if we can even get opportunities, we are looking forward at getting our leaders, top leadership of the party, President himself, the Secretary General, the leader of opposition, among others, to come down when we organize them, to speak to them, so that they make them strong, that by the time they reach into the process, they know what this means to the revolution, they understand what this means to the the forthcoming general election. And then when we come to Uganda, for example, it will be very easy for us to score that. But minus us organize the basis, having organized the tap, like having gone down there, yeah, to bring up the right people, trust me, even if you put up someone who is like something that, because I think, as we are